Today, we will talk about extreme day trading and scalping. We will mainly focus on two trades that I took recently. I'll be showing you how I combined 10 minutes and 10 seconds charts, and the trade that I took just using the high time frames. Today is really important. We will combine mitigation blocks, support and resistance flips, extreme interest areas, multiple stop loss points, multiple target points, and the best entries. We have so much to cover. If you're ready, let's start. Welcome our free trading course, all about price action trading strategies and smart money concepts. With this video, we will complete the mitigation block strategy. If you are looking for a structured table of contents, I set it up for you. You can find it on Google Drive or directly from my website, which is in the description. It is important to watch videos in order to fully understand everything. Okay, let's start with the first trade. Some people keep asking me what I do before I trade, and they wanted me to show them exactly what I do, how I analyze high and low time frames. In this channel, that's what I do actually. Nowadays, I don't even look at higher time frames like 4 hours or daily, because markets are super bearish. I only check the economic calendar mostly. Other than that, 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 10 minutes charts are where I find my setups. In this chart, you can notice that price keep hunting stop losses. What I mostly look for sudden drops after swing failure patterns. You can see the considerable swing failure pattern here. The price never had any intention to go higher. A weak break and then sudden drop. It actually leaves behind a natural supply area, which is rally-based drop. Very common and standard supply and demand area. You can easily notice the high quality break happens right here. One giant candlestick. There is no resistance, it breaks at once and strongly. As you learned, this little red candlestick is our mitigation block. Again, do not worry about choosing a specific candlestick. What you should focus on is the overall supply area. Sometimes little candlesticks could be really confusing. Our high quality break actually leaves a giant imbalance behind. Some of it filled, but not all of it. This is a great combination of imbalance and mitigation block combo. Actually, there is also an order block here, three structures together and touching each other. So overall, this area is my extreme interest area. It is inside the break area and the rally-based drop area. I knew that this would be a great place to wait and look for an entry. You can spice up things and look for more structures in the area, like support and resistance flips. Again, in the layer system, more structures touching each other means a much stronger supply or demand area. Once I saw the price making a huge pump, I immediately understood that it is hunting stop losses, clearing all the orders, all the leftovers, all the forgotten limit orders, all at once, with these strong green candlesticks. Let's talk about targets. When I see a huge pump, I know that there will be a dump. It is just a matter of time. These big imbalance and equal lows below are great areas to take profit. How am I looking for entries? This general area where many price action structures touch each other. It is impossible to say where it will turn. This is why we watch the price action before taking an entry. How about stop loss points? There are two possible stop loss points. High swing points guide me to find possible stop loss zones. And the targets. Again, two possible clear targets here. The first target is where the big imbalance is. Because this is a strong bullish market structure break and order block area, price easily can react from this zone. We can never know this. The second area is this double bottom shape are common equal lows. I actually watched the price action with 10 seconds chart before an entry. TradingView does not allow me to open this chart back in time due to data limitations. However, I took a picture. As you can see here in the 10 seconds chart, there is a very clear price action. As I always say this, 1 second, 10 seconds, 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 week, or 1 month has no importance. Price action is fractal and universal. It works with every single time frame and also with almost every type of asset classes and financial securities. Price action is magic for me. Let's check out this trade and similar patterns again. I do not even check the 1 hour or 4 hour time frames with this trade. Directly opened with 10-minute time frame. You already remember our considerable swing failure pattern from the previous trade. And other similar steps, the imbalance is almost fully filled, all the stop losses hunted before the sharp fall. What else can you see? The swing failure pattern is very clear and a proper swing failure pattern. So what does this tell me? Price has no intention to go higher, just hunting stop losses. After the big hunt, price quickly dropped. This was actually beyond my expectation. However, it just leaves rally-based drop structure for us. Do you see what we do? We keep trading similar patterns and structures and keep making money. Repetition and practice is the only way of making money in this trading world. If I teach you a brand new strategy that has no connection to each other, you cannot be successful. You just get confused. Now, let's see the break, one of the highest quality breaks. Look at this drop, amazing. Again, we have a mitigation block right here. Now, one more time, do not go crazy trying to find the perfect mitigation candlesticks. Just focus on the overall area. I draw all of this for you to understand the structures and dynamics. 1 year later, you will not draw anything at all on your charts. Look at this, another support resistance flip area, which makes the area much stronger. To be honest, I did not check the lower time frames with this trade. Once I saw the equal highs hunt and swing failure pattern together, and the mitigation block with SR flip zone, enough confirmation for me. There is also this giant interest area to check. If my trade fails, I could enter again inside this area with other structures above. Again, mitigation block, SR flip, stop loss hunt, and the swing failure pattern. Altogether, this was enough for me. As for stop losses, let's see two possible areas again. However, in this case, the highest swing point does not make any sense at all. If I use that, I have to have a great target point. For the target, I saw all the liquidity here, but there was no imbalance or specific nice structure. There were some tiny equal lows and swing low points, so the price could react from any point. If you are confused and have no clear targets, then go back to basics. Use specific risk management like 1R to 1R or 1R to 2R. So this was my overall trade. This is how you can be successful, guys. Keep repeating what you know. Repeat it 100 times and results will be there. Okay folks, this is it. Completed the mitigation blocks. Very simple yet quite effective price action trading pattern. A trading strategy for swing and day traders, also for scalpers. You can use it in your trading life for day trading or scalping. I hope you subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thank you, please take care and see you soon.